Eric Church. Over the last decade, he has become almost the father of this generation of country music fans. Over the course of his career, he has not only been able to please the independent crowd, he has also pleased the masses and found great commercial success. Simply put, everyone likes Eric. And why wouldn't they? He is a top-tier songwriter who knows how to have a rockin' time just as well as he can strip it back and really make you think. Over the course of his career, you can follow him as a person. You get to see him mature and develop as an individual. We met him as the rowdy young man on Sinners Like Me, fell in love with his outlaw aviator chief persona, and are now privileged enough to follow him through this more mature fatherhood stage where Eric has shown maturity and growth, not only through his appearance, but his music as well. However, with all of that said, at heart he is still the rowdy man on Sinners Like Me, and he's still chief, just older and wiser. Needless to say, Eric has become a staple in this day and age of country music, and most likely will go down as one of the legends of the genre. Snap back to present day. We are not far away from receiving what should have been one of the biggest shockwaves sent throughout the country music world. An event that should have been bigger than Morgan Wallen's Dangerous. Maybe not necessarily chart-wise, but impact-wise. Heart and Soul. 3 separate albums, all somehow intertwined yet split apart. This should have been Eric's biggest release to date. It was supposed to shake the earth, so to speak. But today I'm going to talk about how a combination of the promotion, rollout, and organization of this project essentially self-sabotaged the whole plan. But it's not just this project that I think has been affected by this problem. Heart and Soul just happens to be the biggest victim in recent memory. You can point the finger to a lot of things, whether it be the official announcement being leaked, the sudden release of Dangerous, which almost stole the show, but personally, given the rollout strategy of this project, I feel like it was doomed from the get-go. Before we get too deep into this, I want to clarify. I'm not saying the music itself is bad, especially when talking about Heart, it's quite incredible. The issue is how the poor promotional decisions ultimately tarnished the project and prevented it from being as impactful as it should have been. A missed opportunity, so to speak. Pre-release tracks. More often than not, these are singles. Their purpose? To get people excited for an upcoming album. Build anticipation, hype. They should give you just enough to become restless with anticipation, but not too much to the point where it almost spoils the excitement. And that's where we run into the big issue here. Across the board, out of the 25 tracks being released, we already have 10 of them. However, 4 of those 25 are from the And record, which for whatever reason is not available to the general public. Only subscribed members of the church choir, but that's an issue in itself. So all in all, if you're an average listener, you already have 10 out of the 21 songs being released. That's just shy of 50%. 47.6 to be exact. You may be wondering what the issue is with releasing so many tracks ahead of the official album release date. The more tracks, the more hype, right? No. Because there is a point in time where you overdo it. You release too much and in turn it takes away from the hype because the fans have seen so much, what could possibly be left to surprise them? Eric is well past this point. For illustration purposes, we're going to step outside of country music for a moment and compare it to one of the biggest music releases, period. A true promotional masterclass, and though I don't expect every release to be on this project's level, there should have been some notes taken. Astroworld by Travis Scott. Even if you have no involvement in hip-hop whatsoever, I'm sure basically all of you have heard the name Astroworld or seen the iconic golden statue of Travis Scott's head. Astroworld was a release that was so gigantic it felt like the world stopped when it first dropped. There's obviously lots of factors that went into the creation, but to tie this to my original point, Astroworld was announced 2 years before its official release, and in that time, though Travis released singles here and there, Butterfly Effect was the only pre-release that made the final track list. 1 out of 17 tracks. 5.8% of the track list, 5.1% of the album runtime. Now compare that number to the 47.6% regarding Heart and Soul. The benefit of releasing so little music ahead of an album that's been announced for nearly 2 years is it leaves the audience to ponder. They contemplate what the album may entail. They can make their own predictions as to what they think the album's going to be and share it with fellow fans, creating almost like an endless game of telephone where nobody really knows what's going to happen. Keeping your cards close often pays off. Just look at the monster success of an album like Blonde, which had no announcement or pre-releases. I'm not saying every album needs to be a surprise, or that there should only be one pre-release track from an entire album. I'm just saying that lately it's been overdone. Most notably and recently, you can look to Born Here, Live Here, Die Here by Luke Bryan, which dished out 50% of the track list before the official release date. In my opinion, this strategy of pre-releasing a large portion of an album does nothing but take away from the build-up. All of a sudden the official release isn't as suspenseful or anticipated because you're simply getting the same amount of music you've already received up to this point. Sure, it's slightly annoying as a fan to have to wait with only a few tracks available, but that's what makes you restless, and that's the whole point. It's annoying in a good way. It makes the days and weeks leading up to the official release even more intense because you've been waiting for so long. To add to this point, it also essentially eliminates the surprise factor an album can have. When you release so many tracks ahead of time before the album has even arrived, you already know what the new sound is, the style, the general vibe, and the overall concept the album possesses. All in all, it just makes the official release anticlimactic. Anticlimactic is the big idea here. To give you an idea of what I mean, imagine if the trailer for Avengers Endgame was an hour and a half long. You would still go and watch it when it officially comes out, but it wouldn't be as exciting because for the most part, you know what's going on. You're just coming to see the finished product, and it wouldn't be as special or surreal. I think back to After Hours. I'm not saying all albums need to have the storyline, promotion, and complex artistic direction as After Hours, and I know the pop R&B industry is vastly different than that of country, but to my point, this album had hype. The Weeknd released Heartless in late November, then 2 days later he released Blinding Lights. It wasn't until February 13th the album title was announced, and with that came the release of the title track. And that was it. Then Abel left us to our imaginations as to what was coming. We waited, not an absurd amount of time, but enough time given the amount of pre-releases to keep me on the edge of my seat in the time leading up to the album. Finally, March 20th came, and to have the whole album there at my fingertips almost felt surreal because there was so much build-up. I had been waiting and waiting for this day to come. That satisfying feeling of finally being in possession of the full project is almost indescribable. But in preparation for this video, I'm left to wonder if the whole experience would have been so surreal had Abel released 5, 6, or 7 songs ahead of time. The answer is probably not. I understand that in the streaming age, pre-releases can rack up numbers and in turn profit, but think of the audience. Think of the experience and memories being missed out on because in an attempt to reel in a bit of extra cash, you sacrifice the anticipation, the build-up, and hype. So I bring it back to Eric Church. With a project as big as a triple album, I can't help but feel bittersweet towards it due to the rollout, which in my opinion has spoiled the whole hype surrounding the release. Hype that should have been off the charts, but in turn almost feels like the project as a whole has fallen off the radar of most, at least myself included. That's not to say I'm not excited for the official release. I'm just not as excited or restless as I know I could have been had the team gone for a smarter rollout plan. Especially since one album isn't even available, and the 2 that are going to be released to the public come out a week apart, we're really only getting 4 songs one week and then 4 or 5 the next, assuming he doesn't release more tracks in the what I struggle to call build-up to these April release dates. Before I begin to wind this video down, I just want to propose a scenario to you. I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I did with After Hours just a moment ago. Imagine for a moment, in July of 2020, Eric releases Stick That in Your Country song with no context. We don't know what's going on, the cover appears to be cryptic, but we're simply left to ponder our predictions. Then October rolls around and we get Hell of a View. Another cryptic cover, but this time around it's blue. Then Eric releases Through My Ray-Bans later that month along with the announcement that a triple album is coming in April. He doesn't explain the ins and outs to what album is which and why, he just says we're getting 3 albums in the month of April and that we may or may not be getting another single between the announcement and the official release. Imagine how nuts that would drive you, and everyone. It would be awesome. Maybe I'm the odd one out here, but I just find that scenario so much more appealing and intriguing as a fan. Think of how surreal it would feel when the clock finally struck midnight and you have 3 Eric Church albums staring right back at you. But rather, we've gotten an entire album's worth of pre-releases, including 2 that are from an album we won't even get to hear the entirety of. It just confuses and annoys me because releases this massive don't come around very often, but rather than capitalize on the opportunity, it feels like Eric's team has just completely sabotaged their own plan by organizing the project in such a strange way that is probably rooted in financial greed. I understand giving music to your more dedicated fans during these strange times, but if the plan never included giving the And album to the public, why would you release certain tracks from it? Furthermore, why would you advertise the collective project as a 3-piece unit when realistically only a sliver of the population is going to actually get the full picture? Especially given the nature and fluidity of the covers and titles, the average listener may feel as if they're missing a piece of the puzzle, and maybe they are. Maybe every non-church choir member is missing out on an important section of this project. It's just one of many flaws that I believe has severely tarnished and put a roof on Heart and Soul's potential impact on the music world. Lastly, before any of you ask, yes, I will still most definitely be reviewing the albums when they are officially released. It'll just be slightly bittersweet because I know this project had the potential to be the Astroworld of country music, but instead it will go down, at least in my mind, as one of the biggest and most blatantly missed opportunities at true greatness. Alright, so that's all I've got for you guys today. Be sure to comment your thoughts on the album and everything surrounding it. If I came off as an Eric Church hater, that is by no means what I was trying to do. If you go back a few months in my channel, I did a Q&A where I included Eric Church in my Mount Rushmore of country music. I think he is and will go down as a true legend of the genre. I just can't help but wonder what could have been in this case of what I would call promotional catastrophe. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, and if you're new, I would encourage you to subscribe for more country music content. Links to my Discord and Instagram are in the description as usual, and until next time, have a great day.